Hello there, this is Philip Corper. This is episode 29th of the Philip Corper Show. I'm Philip Corper, and this is September 6th. I've got a great show for you guys today. I want to start off with this Jeffrey Lord article in the American Spectator. It's talking about this secret official who's come out against Donald Trump. I want to start reading a little bit from this article, and Jeffrey Lord starts off. The president has no idea what he's doing. He displayed little knowledge or even curiosity about international affairs. He tuned out when being briefed. His attention flagged in meetings, causing him to doodle. When it came to the deadly serious business of nuclear weapons, he never understood what this throwaway business was all about. In fact, he had demonstrated repeatedly he had little interest and less understanding of the details of issues ranging from arms control to tax cuts. He fell asleep in cabinet meetings. Indeed, said one congressman, it was sinful that he ever became president in the first place and was the worst president in American history. No, this isn't a description of President Donald Trump, Jeffrey Lord goes on writing. It is a collection of behind-the-scenes observations about President Ronald Reagan. That would be very same Ronald Reagan whom Margaret Thatcher said that he finished up the Cold War without firing a shot. And this is just great. You know, all these accusations. And so now we have this senior official, okay, and he anonymously reported all this to the New York Times, and they published this in this big article. And this guy says, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. I work for the president, but like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. Jeffrey Lord writes, well, aside from the arrogance on display here, in which the writer presumes that somehow he or she was elected president of the United States in 2016, what we see on display in this one article alone is exactly the reason Donald Trump was placed in the Oval Office in the first place. Okay, he writes, this senior official has no principles beyond his or her own well-honed sense of self-importance. The idea is plain. Like various Reagan advisors or members of Congress in the 1980s, the writer believes herself to be smarter than the man in the Oval Office. That man is just not doing things the Washington way, and God forbid that someone like that have the nerve to disrupt the system. This really plays into this narrative for Donald Trump that there is a deep state. Okay, this person, whoever they may be, I mean, this is against the law. This is perjury. This person to work in the administration is vowed and has all these rules and made oaths, you know, to keep the Constitution, to keep all the information of the presidency secret. I mean, you worry about an official just running to China or running to Russia, you know, or Iran, okay, and giving them top secrets. So this person, I guess this feels justified in this incredible behavior of just going directly against the president and trying to stay anonymous. Of course, Donald Trump is tweeting about this. And he says, I'm draining the swamp, and the swamp is trying to fight back. Don't worry, we will win. Okay, and so this is just incredible how the New York Times is publishing this, and President Trump is calling this gutless. And Sarah Sanders, she's demanding that the unnamed author resign. So this is the resistance we are facing in the Trump administration. I am so glad that we have elections in the United States, and elections really do mean things. We have a winner-take-all system. Either Hillary Clinton was going to win or Donald Trump was going to win. Donald Trump won. Hillary Clinton loses. Hillary Clinton gets nothing. Donald Trump gets everything. He gets the presidency of the United States. He gets to head our government for 4 years. Unless he dies or gets impeached, right? And so off he goes, and, you know, the will of the people from the election, he wins. He totally wins. And so this deep state notion is illustrated with this. Sarah Sanders, she tweeted, for those of you asking for the identity of the anonymous coward, and then she tweets, the media's wild obsession with the identity of the anonymous coward is recklessly tarnishing the reputation of thousands of great Americans who proudly serve our country and work for President Trump. Stop. If you want to know who this gutless loser is, call the opinion desk of the failing New York Times at 212-556-1234 and ask them. They are the only ones complicit in this deceitful act. We stand united together and fully support our President Donald J. Trump. I mean, the New York Times will go to whatever they can. I mean, the media is really giving credence to these people. These people are just totally have gone crazy and going against Donald Trump on an 11 out of 10 scale. I mean, dynamite and everything. I mean, just incredible brazenness. So, of course, once we figure out who this person should be fired and maybe even tried. Okay, where we don't like to go, talk treason or things like this. But this is this is definitely perjury. This is definitely going against the President of the United States. These are the things that we worry about in America to protect our government and our government officials from attacks like this. So moving on, the Kavanaugh nominations continue. My last podcast, I got messed up and I kept calling Judge Kavanaugh David Kavanaugh. Well, his name is Brett Kavanaugh, so I got that kind of mixed up. Sorry about that. I really love the point Charlie Kirk tweeted, and he said, I love when leftists get the Constitution explained to them. They hate the idea there are other ideas. There was one protester yelling and screaming during the Kavanaugh nomination. How these people even get in to this? I mean, they don't just let anyone in. So obviously some senators are giving these protesting type of people, letting them into this nomination. So this is very orchestrated by the Democrats. And I love the quote from Fox and Friends of one protester, and the police said to him, your right to free speech doesn't trump his. That is so true. Brett Kavanaugh has the opportunity to respond to questions from the Senate in a public forum, in a public setting. Those protesters are interrupting the free speech of these people and really in our opportunity to listen to what they have to say. So they're disrupting our republic, and I'm glad they're quickly being removed from the room. And if the Democrats really want to be this party of this disruptive thing, I mean, I thought it was the Democrats who go high and the Republicans go low. I'm just really confused by this. But anyhow, I think it's a big victory for Republicans to see how out of control the Democrats are being. And so if we're just going to vote, party line vote, I mean, Justice Scalise, I mean, he was voted in as a Supreme Court justice by like 97-0. There were no negative votes. No Democrats voted no on Judge Scalia. And so now it's just a very partisan thing. It's turned out to be very partisan. Well, so what? Okay, whatever. Whoever controls the Senate, gets to get their nominees through. So that's how it's going to be. So that's going to be something the American voters can think about as we elect our senators. So it's just been totally politicized. So be it. I'm not really quite sure how we can change that. But I guess that's what the Democrats want to have, and so that's what we'll get. I had a fascinating conversation with a good friend yesterday, about Colin Kaepernick and this Nike endorsement thing. And, it was really fascinating how my friend just said, well, but Kaepernick has so I don't agree with everything he's doing, but such convictions, and he never intended to be offensive to patriots or be non-patriot or things like that. And then I said, well, what about the socks? The socks that he would wear, that were, depicted police officers as pigs. And I've read about the time that he went down to a Miami game and he's wearing like this Fidel Castro shirt promoting Castro, and what great ideas, Castro, talking to Malcolm X or something like this, totally aggravating the Cuban Americans in Florida. I mean, things like this. But he said he's a man of conviction, and I've read that, like, conviction, I mean, didn't Adolf Hitler have conviction? Don't members of the KKK have conviction? I mean, just saying something has conviction, uh, that's not good enough. That's good enough. Someone may be really mad at a bank and want to rob the bank because he has conviction or something like that. And that doesn't make it right. We have actions, and actions really, we're going to go by actions, not just by convictions. But the left really loves this thing about convictions. It's sad that these people get pregnant and they can't take care of these babies, so we'll just kill them, abort them, So don't worry about how reprehensible an abortion is. But, they had really good convictions. They want to go work, they want to go to college. It's like the ends justifies the means. No way. No, these convictions. No, it's good. We've got moral codes. We can determine right from wrong. And so anyhow, I love this piece by Scott McKay in the American Spectator also. And he talks about how he says, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Okay, so that's the Nike ad that they're running with Colin Kaepernick, and they signed him this big contract and stuff. And so article says Nike's decision to turn Kaepernick the national anthem defiling, skills atrophying, cellar dwelling social justice warrior, ex quarterback who last played NFL football with then the 2-14 San Francisco 49ers in 2016. It isn't the last corporate product pitchman was announced over the Labor Day weekend, and on Tuesday, when the New York Stock Exchange got its first opportunity to weigh in on the results, weren't good. So stock market went down yesterday when Nike announced this. It lost about $3.5 billion market capitalization. And so Colin Kaepernick, he writes, how can it be otherwise? Kaepernick has already laid waste to one America's corporate giant market share, almost single-handedly tubing the NFL's TV ratings by double digits through his idiotic kneeling histrionics during the national anthem. And though he's been out of the league for more than a year now, many of his fans are not rushing back. It could well be that Kaepernick has done significant permanent damage to his brand, indestructible before he became before. And this article mentions that, they talk about him sacrificing. I'm not quite sure why he's sacrificing for not playing football. So he was offered contracts by the San Francisco 49ers and the Denver Broncos. Okay, but he turned them down. Okay. He's made himself toxic. The article says he made himself toxic as the face of a franchise, and he furthermore didn't pursue the opportunity to play in the Canadian Football League, where he could have reclaimed his promise as top-level quarterback. So, Kaepernick and my friend yesterday was talking about these great sacrifices that he's making. I just don't understand. I'm so confused with this great sacrifices for his convictions. Okay, we've got in a big debate also about, I can't protest at work. I work at the hospital. If I protest, if I take a picket sign and go out with my scrubs on and my badge on, I can't do that. Okay, I cannot do that. I can protest after work and stuff. I can do that as a citizen, but I can't use my employer and that forum. Okay, that's not First Amendment speech. Okay, First Amendment speech just protects me against the government censoring my speech, not an employer. I work for my employer. I have a contract with my employer. I have certain rules I need to obey. Sorry, by the way, my voice is this way. I'm getting over a cold. So Colin Kaepernick, wants to kneel down to the national anthem only when the cameras are rolling and he's got his 49ers outfit on. Okay, he's working, he's on the clock, he's working for his boss, and okay, he's going to start doing all this crazy stuff. Okay, and to say that he's not being offensive and he's not doing anything to offend Americans or veterans is just baloney. He knew this is a big, crazy idea, and look at the reaction. He got the big, huge reaction he wanted. The guy was bored. He was benched. Okay, he was whining. Okay, he wanted to get some attention and make some money off of it, and look what he got. Sweet deal with Nike. I was so embarrassed yesterday at work. I had my Nike shoes on that I put tape over my swooshes. And then today, I got a lot of Nike running shoes, unfortunately. I drew on my shoes a red circle with a slash through it. I am embarrassed of my Nike shoes. This brand has been totally ruined for me. I liked Nike. I like my running clothes. I like my Nike running shoes. I really love them. And I've got some in a box right now that are brand new, ready to wear, because I really like these free Nike free shoes for running. So pretty bummer that now the brand has been totally mucked up for me. Why Nike wanted to endorse such a controversial person? I guess they feel like this is going to play into their fan base, and the ones who are going to buy those expensive shoes are going to really love Kaepernick. Who knows? Maybe the stock will rebound, but the brand has really been tarnished, and I'm really kind of bummed out about it. But off it goes, because some guy's got conviction, and yes, he's anti-American, anti-veteran, and anti-police. I just don't think this is going to play out in middle America. I overheard a friend at work says he doesn't even watch NFL anymore. He watches college football, but not the NFL anymore. And this Kaepernick thing is his excuse. So a lot of Americans don't like it. I don't watch TV much, so I'm not missing out on much. But it certainly is a lot of social justice warrior going on here. On a local issue, I mentioned before this tax recall in Fayette County or in Lexington, Kentucky, that 5 members of the school board said, we're going to raise some taxes. We need to earn some money, protect the kids. We want $13 million. So they immediately do a tax hike. There was no voting going on. Just the school board members just do this kind of unilaterally. I went through a neighborhood and tried to get their signatures for a recall vote. And if we could get 14,000 signatures, then we can have a recall, and then we can vote. We can vote. Do we want to have a school tax increase or not? So that's very fascinating, going door to door, meeting people, hearing their feelings. Most of course, the older couples, older homeowners that I have encountered, they are very eager to sign the petition to get a vote. They are not supportive of the tax increase. I met one lady who is against it. She's never had any children. She doesn't want to pay for more for the schools because it doesn't benefit her. It seems very unfair. And other people were kind of supportive of the tax increase, they told me, but they wanted to vote about it. They thought it was unfair that they would just raise taxes. Well, they structured it that 14,000 votes is a lot of votes. I could have got a lot more signatures because I was surprised that almost half the people I talked to signed this petition, put their name on there, their address, you have to put your year you were born. Okay, you have to give it to someone like me in this public piece of paper on this clipboard. Quite the bold thing to do. Your neighbors can see. It's not the privacy of a voting booth, this recall thing. You could see that I could get so many signatures so quickly. Shows you. And I was in a very liberal area in Lexington, very wealthy, liberal area. So anyhow, a lot of signs in the area pro school and pro the Democrat candidate coming up. So very fascinating, and yet I'm sad. I'm sad that didn't go through. Okay, I'm sorry my voice is so raspy And I just wanted to close a high note here a little bit. I just wanted to read a little bit of something from our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's called "The Family: A Proclamation to the World," and I want to just read 2 paragraphs from here. The beliefs. This is what our faith, the Restored Gospel, we believe. All human beings, male and female, are created in the image of God. Each is a beloved spirit, son, or daughter of heavenly parents, and as such, each has a divine nature and destiny. Gender is an essential characteristic of individual, premortal, mortal, and eternal identity and purpose. So what made me think of this, and I believe this wholeheartedly, what made me think of this is that I listened to a podcast, and there are some, they propose that they are former members of our church, and they still really love our faith. Another name, people use a nickname called Mormons, and because of a prophet named Mormon, and we have a book called the Book of Mormon named after him. And so I listened to this podcast, and these people were dealing with the LGBT stuff and identifying with that. One of the hosts, she said she was married to a woman and used to be a member of our church, and yet she seemed to be very pro the gospel, I guess, at least on the podcast. And then she interviewed this other person who was born a male and got married to a female in our church, had 2 children who are members of our church, he said. But then, like 6 years ago, he said he went through a change, and over time he converted into a female. And so he's dealing with all this, and he brought up the fact, or she brought up the fact that she wanted to keep his children, kept the privacy of his children and the privacy for his ex-wife. He divorced his wife. So I was just thinking about how this person is going through all these changes, and deciding that he's not identifying as a male, even though he's got a male body, even though his chromosomes are XY and he's programmed to be a male. He decides he doesn't, that kind of gender identity is not for him, and he wants to be something else. And so I was thinking about, I give him a lot of credit for trying to protect his family, but on the other hand, I can't help but think about the trauma, and he even mentioned all the stress, trauma that his family's been through. And I feel bad. I feel bad for the whole situation. I feel bad for how, especially the young people now, or all of us, especially here in the United States, we're being bombarded by this LGBT thing and acceptance. And actually this guy, or this girl, she said that, people speaking out against this behavior are causing these people to be sad and depressed and commit suicide. They're blaming us for sharing our feelings about the gospel of Jesus Christ, about the commandments, about being male and female, and being, it's the first paragraph in this proclamation says that marriage is between a man and a woman and is ordained of God, and that the family is central in the Creator's plan for the eternal destiny of his children. So our faith, the Restored Gospel of Jesus Christ, we are so focused on families and marriage between men and women, and if we can have children, and then we can be together forever, and how important this is. So to see this person leave his wife and not be with his children is sad. And I really think sometimes we get caught up in the things of the world. There's even some studies that show that some people are just considering being adopting same-gender attraction and all these ideas just because these things are in the news, just because these people are reading about this or seeing this online. So they're being lured away by these ideas. I really think that very faddish ideas, and it makes me sad because I think a lot of people are being sucked down into these paths, and these paths are really against the commandments of God. These people in this podcast were talking about how they wanted members of our church or the leaders of our church to receive more revelation from God, so they know that we have a head of our church, president of the church, President Nelson, who's a prophet, and he can receive revelation from God. And so these people want President Nelson to receive revelation for them, for gay marriage, and so they can be, I guess, not feel guilty about being transgender. One thing I did notice is a lot of these people, or a lot of these men, are going through career problems, and many times their wives are making more money than they are. I think I mentioned this earlier, and so this, I think, produces a struggle all in itself. And so I think these men feel guilty about not providing well for their families. That's a very important thing for a man in a marriage, to provide for his family, and we can't do that. It's really hard on us. And so I think some of these people just look for an easy way out of this and try to avoid the guilt and the pain. And so they leave the gospel. So anyhow, I thank you so much for listening. This is the Philip Corper Show, and I'm Philip Corper, and copyright 2018.